These instruments sold under the name of Ukelin, sometimes harp, violin, were made by the International Music Company. This one's a great one because it's all here. The bow, the music directions, and the key to keep it all in tune, and even the music stand. It's a great piece, though not an item of great value. Value today, $50 at best, so a little bit better than the $35 it might have cost day one.
I have two ukulins in my collection, one which I purchased for pretty cheap off of Craigslist a number of years ago, and another one that was given to me by a friend. Many thanks to David. The only real difference between these two ukulins, aside from the wood that they were made of, is different, is that this one, as you can see, has these kind of guideposts on it, allowing you just to drop the bow kind of onto the string for easier playability. And the sweet spot for playing a ukulele is right in the middle of these two posts where the string connects. And it gives it a little truer sound, whereas this one, because it's a wider gap, it's a little scratchier, a little harder to find the note and to play it. Whereas this one, just kind of drop the bow in there and it plays nicely. And I kind of like the tone of this one better as well. I'm sure you've noticed some similarities between a few of the instruments that I have featured here. Namely, the ukulele, the marxophone, and the tremoloa. They were all made by similar companies around the same era and have the same kind of playability where you would thumb strum these chords and then have some sort of melodic feature. But this was probably the biggest flop of them all in that these were, like the marxophone and ukulele, sold by door-to-door salesmen. And they would tell the potential buyers that you're going to sound like a violinist in no time, but rosin on a bow across steel strings just kind of produced a really kind of tinny, high mid-range sound that wasn't as pleasing to the ear. And with a violin, of course, you can add vibrato, and you can't do that. It's just a very static note. And so another thing that I found out was that these salesmen were a little bit sly in their selling technique. They would just say, you should purchase this instrument from me now, and you'll get a much better deal on it from me than you would buying it in the store. And when in fact, they weren't even really sold in stores. They're difficult to get to sound good. I personally kind of like the quirkiness of that, and thus they have found their way onto a few recordings of my own. One of the interesting things about doing this series is I have realized that I haven't used the ukulele yet on a Strange Instruments series, and I've got this song that could actually use it. And so last week I had a group in here and we were recording this song, and I played ukulele over this verse. Verbed it out, just made it kind of interesting back there. Kind of a nice scratchy texture back there, I really like it. My good friend Paul Boblet, who's also the bass player of my band Fathom Lane, had sent me this kind of Sigur Rós sounding track to add some instruments to. And the first thing I did was grab my ukulele and I thumb strummed across the strings for this part. Thought that was a cool sound, and you can hear it in the track here. The other interesting thing is there were MIDI programmed strings in the track. And a really great trick to kind of bring some life and legitimacy to those strings is to actually play real strings over the top of it. And so I decided, since I already had the ukulele, that I would just bow some strings over the top of the MIDI strings. It sounds like this. Here it is without the ukulele, and then with. It just makes it a little bit more interesting. This strange little instrument has been used on several recordings of popular music, including Katie Lang, The Thorns, which is Matthew Sweet, Sean Mullins, and Pete Droge, The Magnetic Fields, among others. But my favorite interview talking about using this instrument on a record was by Christian McShane, who played the ukulele on fellow Minnesotan Charlie Parr's record, Rooster. And he said this about the ukulele in an interview. The ukulin is a beastly amalgamation of a ukulele and a violin from the early 1900s. If you could bow a dying seagull, it would sound like a ukulin. Charlie nicknamed it the devil's own ukulin, and I believe it truly is from hell. In 2012, I had challenged myself to write and record and upload a new song every week, but due to my busy schedule here at the library, I wasn't able to keep it up and lasted only through the end of March. However, in March, I had attended the funeral of the son of one of my very closest friends since 6th grade. His son was only alive a mere 8 days on this earth due to a chromosomal abnormality called trisomy 13. And I wanted to write a piece dedicated to his child, Josiah. And so I did, using mainly the ukulele, and I also played just some low notes on the cello, and I wanted it to be both beautiful and painful, and with the kind of scratchiness and brightness of the ukulele, it was kind of the perfect instrument. So I would like to just kind of give you a little bit of a snippet of this song. This is titled, "There Are No Words," a lament for Josiah. Well, that about does it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week.